Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Carrie Marshall. Today, we're going to talk about something called mindset minds. And I'm going to see how many times I mess this up on here today because it's kind of a little bit of a tongue twister. But let's kind of define what a mindset mind is and why we actually want to be aware of them and what we can do about them. So anytime that I help people with goals, I can see that they already know there are going to be areas that their brain is going to get in the way, meaning that their thoughts and their mindset is actually going to be a problem and not part of the solution and not part of like them going after their goal. So for instance, if we have somebody that's going after something new and they tell themselves that they're not very good at it, or they get really worried about judgment, that's something that's going to be a mindset mind. So one of the things, I'm going to use my own example. One of the things when I started my business was I had to kind of figure out websites. Never really done a website before, didn't know how to do it. And so easiest thing possible was for me to hire somebody, right? And so the first time I did it, I hired somebody, but I didn't like it. It wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but my mindset mind, the thing that was actually in my way was I kept telling myself that I didn't know, that somebody else was the expert. Now, yes, they might have been the expert on the back end of actually setting up the website, but I really did know what I wanted. And so sometimes when I have been doing things, it's almost like this relaxed version of myself that's like, I'm easy to work with, I don't care, I don't have an opinion, is actually a mindset mind for me. Because what happens is then the product comes out, I've kind of given a little bit of direction, but not a lot. And then I say, oh yeah, that looks great. But really in my mind, I'm telling myself like, well, you don't know, so just let her do it. And so you're going to find that you have these mindset minds. So for me, I could kind of see that mine was like, I'm not really the expert here. I don't know what's supposed to look good. And so when I start to actually tell myself that that my opinion doesn't matter, that's a mindset mind. That means that my mindset is going to shift into that space anytime I do something new. So it did it with my website. It did it with a photo shoot. It does it, when I go to write a new book, it always comes up with like, well, there's got to be somebody else that's better at this. And like, you're not the expert. Now, the reason that I say that that's a mindset mind is that it will explode in my head and it'll make it so that I don't take action toward my goal. So I want you to think about yourself and I want you to just kind of sit here right now and just ask yourself, what are some of the mindset minds that you already know you have right now? It could be like, who am I to do this? There's other people that are better. I can't figure this out. I'm not too smart at this. We have all of these different ones that come up when we talk about actually going after our goal. So the reason that we say that this is so important is because if we can start to find these, we can actually solve them and like take them apart so that they don't explode and stop us from taking action by just knowing what we can say to ourselves instead. When that thought, that mindset mind comes up, instead of stepping on it and exploding and then not being able to take action toward our goal, what we want to be able to do is actually have the thing, the next thought, the next belief already in place so that when it comes up, we can go ahead and say like, oh, I actually know how to unarm this mindset mind. I actually know how to like step around it. I don't need to step on it and it doesn't need to be a big deal. Okay, so why do these come up? When we talk about our thoughts, as you know, we've talked about this a lot, but we'll just kind of go over it. You're going to have thoughts that are coming up and they're going to create your feelings. Your thoughts are always what drive your feelings drive your actions, and your actions drive your results. And so when we talk about why your mindset is so important, we kind of go back all the way up to like, well, your mindset, your thoughts, what you're thinking are going to get into your emotion, right? It's going to drive to your emotion. So I had a client ask me, why can't I just stop thinking this thought? Well, interestingly enough, you can work on like changing it, adjusting it, but sometimes we have these neural pathways that are created by our brain. And the more that we think a thought, the more that neural pathway actually gets more concrete in our head. And so for instance, if you were told as a kid that you were dumb, and then you started to believe you were dumb, and then you started to think you were dumb, then what is going to happen is you're going to create a very concrete neural pathway that maybe that you're dumb, right? Like that's the thought that's going to come up for you. That's going to be a mind that's going to happen for you. And so oftentimes, even though we're like adults, we know that we have control of our thoughts. Sometimes these thoughts, because we have that really solid neural pathway, will still just happen, which is why it's really important that we work on these other thoughts that can come up and help us to just kind of deactivate that mindset mind. So let's go back to that, like, I'm not the expert thought that I have. That's kind of my mindset mind. When I have that happen, and it happens less now, but it still does happen. Like I said, that neural pathway is still there. When it does happen, the thought that I always go to is, I really do have an opinion about this. And it doesn't matter. Like, we can keep the website exactly the same if this person decides, or I tell her that it's fine, but it's okay for me to have an opinion. Even if I'm the most brand new person in the room, I still get to have an opinion. Even if there's 500 people there and they're all experts, I still get to have an opinion. So just that small little change to like, it's okay for me to have an opinion here has really made a difference for me. So I want you to think about these mindset minds for you. When you're going after a goal, what stops you? What's the thought that stops you? I don't have enough information. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. Like, what would it be for you? On this podcast, I've had so many great guests, really amazing, successful people doing so many incredible things. It's like one of my favorite things is being able to interview people here on the podcast. But the really cool thing about all of it is that I've noticed as something that all of them have said, and it's something that I really want to kind of encourage all of you to kind of look at, is most people that have sat in this chair right across from me have said that one of the thoughts or beliefs that they have about themselves is that they can figure it out. Doesn't matter what it is, but having that belief that you can figure things out is so powerful. If we can just get to that space, a lot of these mindset minds could be deactivated pretty quickly. This is one of those things like that as you go in, it's going to be pretty easy to be able to say, like, if you believe it, I can figure things out. It really helps. Now, I started to do this as well several years ago, and I realized that what helps me is when I'm overwhelmed and telling myself like I don't have an opinion, or this is too hard, or I'm confused, that I really can break it down to these micro steps and tell myself that I can figure out the micro step. So just recently, I have been writing books, which has been super fun for myself. Very different than ghostwriting. And so one of the things that I've had to figure out is like how to start hiring contractors on this website. It's pretty easy, but for me, I was like, what is happening? I don't know how to pay people from this. How do I hire people? Am I hiring the right people? Am I actually making a job post the correct way? Or am I going to get like different people because I didn't actually understand or write it correctly? And so when I went and just thought about hiring contractors to help me with like editing and layout and all of these different things that go along with book publishing, I kind of started to get overwhelmed. And it was really hard for me to kind of get over the overwhelm because I was thinking to myself, like, this is a lot. That's the thought that came to me. And so when I could kind of see that that was kind of that mindset mind that was like about to explode and that was going to keep me stuck for a while, I had to just shift right then. And I said, okay, hold on. This isn't hard and it's not confusing. I can figure this out. Now, I didn't go and just like figure everything out in that day, but I had to like break it down into micro steps. And so then I could tell myself like, okay, you know how to log in. You logged into the website. You have a profile now on the website. Now it's asking you, are you a contractor or are you going to be hiring for jobs? You know how to click on hiring for jobs. And so as I walked myself through that entire process, a couple of things happened. Number one is I realized that I could get myself further than I really thought I could. I was able to post, I was able to hire, I was able to do all these things. Number two is I realized that the things that were actually confusing to me and that I did need help with were very small. There were only 3 or 4 things. Number 3 is I realized that I'm very good at asking questions and I didn't have to go and like YouTube it or Google it. I just got on the chat box and I was like, hey, listen, website people, how do I do this? And I got an answer like instantly. And I was like, oh, that was easy. But then I got to the end of it. I hired this amazing person to help me with my book. She was lovely to work with. But then I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, I totally figured that out. It's so important for us to be able to do these things because here's another example. I had another guy come to me and he was like, hey, I hear that you're writing books. I hear that you're publishing books. I'm really interested in the publishing portion. And he said, I'm really close to being done with my book. I'm like, amazing. Let's go. Like, this is awesome. I'm so excited. And so when we were able to actually look at his book, and he needed like maybe 2 or 3 more chapters, I was like, why don't you just get these done? We can get to edit. We can get to layout. Like, we are kind of working through all of the publishing services that we offer. And then I didn't hear from him for a while. And we started doing publishing back in January. I think he contacted me in February. Months and months went by and I was like, what is happening? So I finally reached back out to him and I just said like, hey, just checking in. You still interested? Like, what's happening? And he was like, I have just hit this huge roadblock. I can't think about the characters. Like, the development isn't happening. It's so hard to be an author, like all of this stuff. And I was like, mindset mind. Like, he has just been going through the mindset field, the minefield, and just stepping on everything. And so like, I told him, I'm like, well, I'm a coach. Can I just like coach you on a couple of things? And he's like, yeah, for sure. I'd love that. So we kind of worked through these mindset minds and I just kind of showed him like visually, I was like, okay, let's like visualize that you're in a minefield. And every time that you hit this like belief and this block of like why you can't do this, I just want you to see how it blocks your creativity and it explodes in your head. And then you like really stay stuck. And he was like, oh, wow, I can totally see this. So we started to write down these mindset minds. And as we did that, he started to see how often this was coming up for him, that then even when because he likes to write in the evening, he has a job, all these things. So he'll write in the evening and he's like, I wake up in the morning thinking about writing. And he's like, and I'm excited about it. But then it's like, I really do go through this field of like, objections and obstacles and belief and just like worry. And he's like, and then by the time that it's time to write in the evening, he's like, I just sit there and it's like so frustrating and it's embarrassing because my wife's asking me about the book. And so we really kind of just had to like talk about that and how to overcome those. So we all are going to have mindset minds. Everybody's is a little bit different. But just kind of remember that the key points that I want you to take away from this is that when you are in the minefield of your mind, you have to just kind of look around and just tell yourself, like, I'm in charge of deactivating every single one of these. I don't have to stay stuck where I am. I can deactivate these one at a time so that then I can just take action and start moving toward my goal. If we can just really remember that our mindset is absolutely something that is in our control and also not, it can be both, meaning that we can intentionally think thoughts and we are also going to have thoughts come up that just pop into our head because that's what brains and neurons and neural pathways and all of these things do. But if you can just remember that there is some control, even when you have a mindset mind go off in your head, you always have the ability to take it intentionally and shift it, deactivate that so you can move forward. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.